Light 'em up. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Light 'em Up live here on Twitter Spaces on today, May 31st, 2023. I am your host, live with David, as well as the executive producer of Light 'em Up. And we just welcome you. If you're listening live, thanks for listening live. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform of choice, thanks for downloading and subscribing. Be sure to leave us a review, drop us some comments. We'd love to hear from folks about what you all think about the show, maybe some future debates. Love hearing from our fans. And for those of you that are listening live and are fans of the show, have listened to the show, you know that we always like to take any good one liners, any good quotes from the show, and use that as the show title. So as you're listening tonight, reply to the space and let us know what you think about those one liners or anything cool from the show. So, with that being said, it's going to be a quick show tonight. We got two debates, two really good debates, though. We're going to open things up with Alec and RC on what in the world what they would do with the Arizona Coyotes. I mean, there's been a lot of chatter about that team, and these two in our Discord expressed a lot of opinions on what should be done with the Coyotes. So eager to hear them get things kicked off here tonight, and then afterwards we're going to have we will have Jake and Matt Siriani talk about what was a highly entertaining Eastern Conference finals and Western Conference finals and the best and worst performances. And their answers may surprise you. So be sure to stay tuned for our second debate between those two gentlemen. But let's get things kicked off here between Alec and RC for our first debate on what would we do with the Arizona Coyotes. So we're going to go in alphabetical order here. And so since Alec comes before RC, so you can decide if you want to open first or close first. What do you choose?
Well, I'm gonna go with it by virtue of a coin toss here. So let's see here. Let me flip a coin here. It's flipping right now.
This is why we need video.
So RC, you go first.
Okay. All right. Fair
RC,
enough.
your 2 minutes starts now.
Looks like there's a new chapter and it will be written in the National Hockey League, and that is the relocation of the Arizona Coyotes. Now, we can go about the history of this team since moving from Winnipeg in 1996 or the present as they are playing in a 5,000-seat arena, but this is a discussion about the future. Lots of possible destinations to consider, but there is no better place for the Arizona Coyotes than Portland, Oregon. If you do a quick Google search, Portland has a population count of over 641,000. But if you include the greater Portland area, which includes Lake Washego, Oregon City, Fairview, and Vancouver, Oregon, that is a population of 2.2 million people. Let's talk about the history of the sport of hockey alone. The Portland Winterhawks of the Canadian Hockey League relocated from Edmonton in 1976 and have won the Memorial Cup in 1983 and 1998, hosting the Memorial Cup in 1983 and 1986. Hand to the book, I went to a Golden Knights game in Vegas during their first year of existence, and as they hosted the San Jose Sharks. The number of teal jerseys who made the trek to T-Mobile Arena was more than evident. With only the Trailblazers to compete with, the city of Portland is yearning for pro sports during the winter. That being said, Portland fans are able to jump in their car and watch their new team to the slew of geographic rivals in the area. Portland is spitting distance from Seattle, home of the Kraken, which is spitting distance to the Vancouver Canucks, not to mention the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. Rivalries in hockey, or in any sport for that matter, means dollar signs for said league. It only makes sense the Coyotes will be moving, and it even makes more sense to keep it in the Western Conference, and as an added bonus, to keep it in the same time zone for half the calendar year. With a hockey-rich community, with the innate number of rivals, courtesy of the teams already mentioned, the NHL's new home will be Portland, Oregon. I concede my time.
All right. Thank you, RC. Alec, over to you, sir. 2-minute opening statement starts now.
I'm going to make this short and sweet, so let's begin with this. So their arena plan for Tempe has been rejected by a 56% vote. And it's been resparking the relocation rumors for good reason. You make a valid point about Portland, though I feel Houston makes the most sense of the city, which is the fourth largest in the United States and has the seventh largest market in the States. And second largest among markets do not have a hockey team. So the Coyotes, they're bleeding money by the day. And their current arena they play It's in a college venue that seats 5,000 people. They can't go back to what's now known as Desert Diamond Arena or Gila River Arena, as the city of Glendale did not renew their operating agreement with the team. So Houston, they're the fourth largest city in the U.S. and possibly the largest in the southern states outside of Los Angeles, which I think is true. It's one of the few states that has a professional team in the NBA, NFL, MLB, and MLS, but not NHL. There's already
Running
the
remain.
Rockets, Texans, Astros, the Dynamo, and the Houston Dash if you count women's soccer. So it leads the idea of an NHL team in Houston to be very intriguing. I rest my case.
All right. Thank you, Alec. RC, you can come off of mute. And gentlemen, we'll start our 8-minute crossfire segment on what to do with the Phoenix Coyote. I keep calling them the Phoenix Coyotes. The Arizona Coyotes. Starting now, light them up.
So let's go.
You could call them you could call them the Glendale Coyotes. Nobody would care because there's no fan base in with the Coyotes.
I mean, they're all around the same municipality by this point. So yeah.
But I mean, Alec, with the discussions that we had leading up to tonight, Houston just doesn't make any sense. I mean, the only reason why you are indicating that the NHL should move to that city is because of the population. But those people don't care about hockey.
Here's the twist. There's already an arena that's ready about there in Houston, known as the Toyota Center. So they have already arena built that can host ice hockey games, and they have played ice hockey games in Houston there before. Toyota Center can seat 17,800 spectators for ice hockey games. And that's not to mention there's been hockey in Houston before. 2 hockey teams named the Houston Aeros played there in the city. The first was in the
They didn't make it 20 years.
To 1978. The second was a minor league team that played in the IHL and American Hockey League from 1994 to 2013 up until the Arrows relocation to Des Moines to become the Iowa Wild, because that's most likely because they want to be closer to the NHL affiliate in the Minnesota Wild. So there is that. Houston.
But there's also the reality that Moda Center was home to the Portland Winterhawks, and Moda Center is a bigger arena seat-wise than Toyota Center.
Well, 17,000.
Let me throw this question out here since we're talking about seat sizes.
Well,
do we feel that the Yotes would be able to even capture a big enough audience? Yes, this is professional hockey. They should be in these big stadiums, big arenas, but will they be able to pull in anyone with the roster that they have and just the ineptitude that has plagued them for so long?
The rumor that I hear is that Scottsdale, Arizona is where the hockey fans are. I personally find that hard to believe of course, Field of Dreams, the famous saying is, if you build it, they will come. The Tampa Bay Rays have had issues at Tropicana Field since day one. I'm not of the opinion that one suburb is leaps and bounds better than the other. So Glendale has been a disaster. When they were in America West, it was a joke. So Phoenix they have to ship out.
The only market that's bigger than Houston is 3 or 4 major North American professional sports that does not include ice hockey. That's Atlanta. And there were 2 NHL teams that played there before. But this is not about Atlanta. Even though there's no upside for this as a city, I see this as a downside because both the Flames and Thrashers relocated to Calgary and Winnipeg, because the latter became the second incarnation of the Jets. Though if we're talking about Houston, the thing I see as a downside in relocating to the Eastern Conference is another potential division realignment. I feel I see the same way with Portland because you're getting the Coyotes back to the Pacific Division. The NHL is not interested in another division realignment, especially when it comes to pissing off either Detroit or Columbus because they were moved over from the West to the East. The Coyotes were realigned to the Central. So Houston would make sense if you want to keep the team within the Central Division. Even if it's changing time zones, it wouldn't make much of a difference when it comes to keeping them in the same division and the same conference.
But realignment, I mean, this is a league with 4 divisions in their league. So, and they have done realignment before. So, if you're going to realign the league for the sake of having one healthy franchise, they're going to do it. They did that obviously there was a slew of expansion that took place since 1999 when those Thrashers came in. But between Columbus, Minnesota, and the wave of NHL teams that grew, it was 21 teams in 1991. Now it's at 32. So realignment. That's a foregone conclusion. And if there is a shift, then the league is going to do it.
Let me get in here about 4 minutes to go. What do we think about just some people are saying here in the space? What do you think about just eliminating a franchise altogether? Would that be a better option versus
Well,
trying to shoehorn the franchise into another city and build up a fan base there? 3.5 minutes to go.
31 teams. I mean, that's going to be an odd number. So you're going to have 15 and 16. I mean, I think leagues make the most sense with a perfect number like 32. The NFL, obviously, with 8 divisions of 4. I mean, that makes fantastic sense. And with the setup that they have now, I mean, nobody even pays attention to the division in the first place. I mean, who really cares about division play? It's all about the conference.
I mean, NBA fans are pretty much the same thing when you regard about the placement in the division with six divisions of 5 teams. Though I may want to take this into consideration when it comes to relocating a team and keeping them in that same division without having to realign them to another division. Plus, when you relocate the Coyotes to Houston, that develops a new hockey rivalry with the Dallas Stars in state. So there's that. The success of the Stars, a team that relocated from Minnesota that not only won a Stanley Cup in 1999, but also gathered a large fan base. This proves that hockey in Texas can be a success. And hockey in
Well,
the South can be a success as well when you look at teams like the Lightning, the Kings, the aforementioned Stars, and most recently, the Hurricanes and the Golden Knights. So there's that to consider.
okay, you do have to concede that the NHL
Good
South
morning.
is only successful when the teams are thriving, with the exception of maybe being Tampa, because Florida has been an outright disaster, and they've been in the league since 1993, I want to say. I mean, Anaheim draws flies. LA Kings, I mean, they're okay, but their Stanley Cup success was a foregone conclusion. Dallas, I mean, now they're having a good team as well, and you definitely see the sea of green. Sure. My point is that Houston has, and you mentioned it in your opening statement, they have way too many sports options for that community. Yeah, sure, it's the largest, one of the largest 5 cities in the U.S., but between all those franchises that you mentioned, why would fans
30 seconds.
flock to hockey? For example, when I was in Vegas, hand of the book, Vegas was 2 years away from moving from the Oakland Raiders, excuse me, were to Vegas. They already had Raiders gear in Vegas. So, it just goes to the point of how successful a sport like football is, and with the Texans and with college football and sports. Hockey is going to take away that entertainment dollar. No chance.
And time. Thank you, gentlemen, for that great crossfire segment. Check my
Feels like we
notes
just
here.
got started.
I know those 8 minutes go quick.
It's just the beginning of this.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
do
yeah,
go
yeah,
quick.
for
Good
sure.
debate.
No, Alec. Hey, yeah, same to yourself, my man.
Well, we got to do closing. So let's go ahead and get into that. Alec, you went. No, RC went first.
Yeah, RC went
So,
first by
yep. So
coin
RC,
toss on that. So guess I go first on the closing statement then.
yes, yep. So your 2 minute closing statement starts now.
So let's reiterate and to backtrack. So a relocation to Houston would make sense for several reasons. So the 7th largest market in the US, 4th largest city in the US as well. Home to 5 professional sports teams, the Texans in the NFL, Rockets in the NBA, Astros in the MLB, the Dynamo in the MLS, and the Dash in the NWSL. The owner I want to bring up something that I haven't pointed out previously. The owner of the Rockets, Toman Fertitta, he controls the Toyota Center and says he's open to bringing an NHL team to Houston. Sylvester Turner, the mayor of Houston, is also supportive of professional sports in the city. And that's per a statement from his spokesperson, Mary Benton. And even though Turner doesn't have insight on the situation of the Coyotes, Turner would still like a hockey team in Houston. So there is that. Plus, Toyota Center has hosted hockey games before, back when the Iowa Wild were formerly known as the Houston Aeros, where they played in the venue from the building's opening in 2003 up until they relocated to Des Moines to become the Iowa Wild in 2013. Another
1 minute.
Houston hockey team of the same name played the city before, back when the WHA existed from 1972 to 1978. A relocation to Houston also forms a rivalry in the state of Texas. The Dallas Stars play on the north side of the state. While teams in warmer areas of the state don't attract as much fans as in the colder areas, This narrative can be proven false when you look at the successes of the Lightning, Kings, Stars, Hurricanes, and Golden Knights. Plus, a rival team in the state of Texas can only make the game more popular in the state, and it could possibly see similar success as the Stars have, given that the Dallas won a Stanley Cup in 1999 and have garnered a big fan base. If hockey can work in Dallas, I have the same hope it can work in Houston. I rest my case.
All right. Thank you, Alec. RC, your 2-minute closing statement starts now.
With any business model going into a new market, one has to consider the potential competitors of that community. With no professional football team and no professional baseball team, Portland, Oregon has a lot of corporate dollars to support their new NHL team. Of course, the main competitor is the Trailblazers, but that is a flash in the pan to the Houston Rockets, Houston Texans, Houston Astros, Houston Dash, Houston Dynamo, let alone the number of NCAA programs in the area, which include the University of Houston, Rice University, Texas Southern University, let alone Baylor University in Waco, the University of Texas in nearby Austin, and Texas A&M, which is in College Station, less than 90 minutes away. How about the fact that how about the Final Four of the NCAA men's basketball tournament has been in Houston 4 times, 3 of those times since 2011. Need I remind you of the Super Bowl, which was in Houston 3 times, the last in 2017. Let's take a look at the attendance figures within the NBA. ESPN reported that Trailblazers were 10th in the league, averaging over 18,500 fans to their home games, while the Rockets only averaged 16,300 fans, which was 28th out of a 30-team league. With geographic rivals that I had already mentioned in Portland, Houston, the best they can do is the St. Louis Blues and the Nashville Predators, and there's no indication that they will cause any close geographic rivalry. Yes, Houston has a large population, but their hockey history doesn't even make it 20 years, with the Arrows moving to Iowa despite winning the Calder Cup in 2003. If population was even a thing, the NHL would have stayed in Phoenix, as that community is the 5th largest in the U.S. and the 10th most populated. And out of the 10 most populated U.S. cities, the only cities with a relatively new team is Austin City FC from MLS and the Arizona Coyotes. How ironic. The entertainment dollar will not be challenged by hockey in Houston. If the NHL did it right, relocation will take place within a hockey-heavy community. That is the Pacific Northwest. That is Portland, Oregon. I concede my time.
And you were right on time. Great. Appreciate that, RC. Gentlemen, thank you for that great opening contest. Wow. So now we'll turn things over to our listeners, and we're gonna do something different now, since the voting now I set it up to where you can't see who's leading. I will allow the debaters to cast votes for themselves or for the other of the party. But previously we didn't allow that, but now since we can no longer see who's voting, who's winning, or who's losing, debaters, you can vote. So the link is pinned by my wonderful co-host Patrick Rush, and I'm going to open up the poll now. And just to make sure, Alec, I have you down for Houston, and RC, I had you down for Portland.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So poll is now open, and 2-minute timer starting now.
All right, great stuff. Great stuff. No,
that's a good one.
Yeah, that was great, gentlemen. Great opening contest there.
No, yeah, absolutely. Alec, you definitely brought it. It's going to be interesting to see with Florida and Vegas in the final. I mean, TNT is doing some great things with hockey. And there was a great, the Spitting Chicklets podcast. Charles Barkley was on it. Fantastic interview.
Oh, yeah. I love how Charles Barkley is into hockey.
Yeah. No, and he knows it. He has his knowledge, too.
He does.
He
really does.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be great if, as you guys know, I'm in Toronto, Canada. It would be great if Quebec City got their hockey team back, but I don't think that's going to happen. But
I doubt it.
Nah.
There was some chatter on our Discord about bringing the Whalers back, but I just
no.
I just don't think NHL is that interested in relocating the Coyotes to the east.
Right.
Yeah.
That
as well.
That among several other reasons, being that there's arguably 3 teams that compete for Connecticut. So
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I'll say after winner's been announced, but I mean, there's also some decent cities. I mean, between Kansas City, I mean, Phoenix has to go, like Arizona, Glendale, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they had their chance. It's dead as a doornail. But
Kansas City could be an intriguing option if neither of these two.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Kansas City, maybe Milwaukee. I don't know.
Milwaukee, I'd be open to that too.
Yeah.
All right. So voting is now closed. Looks like I haven't seen a movement in a while. So we have, oh, wow. Someone had a dead runaway here. Let's see who got it. RC. All
Congrats,
right.
man.
RC
Thank you
wins it.
very
All
much.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Once again, appreciate that.
No, pleasure was mine. Alex, thanks so much. Let's do it again soon.
Let's do it again.
Light them up. All right. So that was a excellent opening contest on what to do with the Arizona Coyotes. I want to thank Alec and RC for opening us up with a great contest, and congrats to RC for the win. We're now going to take things over to the hard court and talk about what happened in what was a very entertaining Western Conference Finals. We're going to have Jake and Matt here provide their thoughts on which team had the best performance and which team had the worst performance. So let me go ahead and get them up here to the stage. Let them get settled in. All right, invites are out. Just waiting for them to accept.
Hey.
Hey, Jake, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
What now?
I said, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. You're not driving anything. I thought I heard some background noise. You're not driving and debating, are you?
I turn my fan off. Definitely not driving. That
Okay.
would not be safe.
I don't want you to get too into it, and then you swerve, anything like that. Don't want that.
Nah, I ain't driving. I'm sitting in my basement.
Don't text and drive.
Okay.
Buckle up for safety.
Exactly. I'm with you, man. Yeah. Yeah, do not. Yeah.
I know, don't. I don't want you to treat the show like this is talk radio and like you're calling in and just like going off on a guy. No,
Yeah.
I think we're a little more simple.
I've had people call into my podcast that I do, like drive. I can hear. I'm like, are you driving?
Okay, gentlemen. So we are on the eve of the NBA Finals, but we're going to take a moment here to reflect on the conference finals that were. We had the 7-game series between the Heat and the Celtics, which almost resulted in some very interesting, unprecedented history. And then we had the Nuggets, making quick work of the Lakers and over in the Western Conference. But so let's go ahead and get started here. Jake, I know you're going to argue for Nuggets having the best conference finals performance. Lakers did the worst. And then Matt, I have you down for the Heat having the best conference finals performance in the Celtics.
And it was very
being
close
the
to
worst.
changing.
I know you did come on the Discord and say I reserve the right to flip this if the Seas pull it off. So, okay, cool. So as we've been doing, as part of the show coming back, we're just going by alphabetical order. So J comes before M. I know my alphabet. So Jake, would you like to kick off or do your closing statement first?
I'll do the second closing statement, so I will go first for the opening statements.
All right, sir. Well, your 2-minute opening statement starts now.
Okay, so the Denver Nuggets were the best team in the conference finals. They absolutely squashed the Los Angeles Lakers, a team that features LeBron James, who is one of the 7 or 8 greatest players to ever play the game. Still a great player at age 38, as well as Anthony Davis, who is one of the best players in the entire NBA. They beat them 100. They put up 132, 108, 119, and 113 points respectively in each game. Lakers are a very good defensive team. Got a lot of long, good defenders on that team. LeBron can still defend. Obviously, we know what Anthony Davis can do defensively. They got a lot of bigs over there, and they put up.
Jake, you went on mute. I'll pause your timer. Let you come back. Okay, so we had some technical difficulties here. With Jake, but we got him back. So Jake, if you want to start your 2-minute opening statement from the top, your timer starts now.
The Denver Nuggets were definitely the best team in the conference finals. They played a team in the Los Angeles Lakers that was really, really good. That featured LeBron James, who is one of the 7 or 8 greatest players to ever play the game, is still one of the 10 or 15 best players in the league at 38 years of age, and had Anthony Davis, who is one of the 10 best players in the entire NBA. And they swept them 4-0. They put up 132, 108, 119, and 113 points respectively, against a Lakers team that is very good defensively. They got a lot of big, long guys, such as LeBron James, such as Anthony Davis. They got a lot of guys like that can defend. Even a guy like Austin Reeves, the guy who's, Rui Hachimura, guys that, I know they're not the biggest guys in the world, but they're very long, and which helps them defend. And the Nuggets were putting up huge numbers on them. Nikola Jokic he's got 8 triple doubles in the whole postseason. He had at least 2 or 3 in that series. Game 2, he didn't play well. He's still like a 20-point triple double. He was putting up video game numbers. Jamal Murray also put up
1 minute remaining
numbers. He got 32 points a game on 50% shooting. That's something you got to put on 2K. Michael Porter Jr. played well. Contavious Caldwell-Pope played well. Bruce Brown even played well. They absolutely demolished a really good Lakers team. So the Lakers, they were terrible. They were the absolute worst team in the conference finals. LeBron, outside of Game 4 where he had 40 and 10 and 9, was absolutely terrible. He couldn't make a free for his life. Anthony Davis, outside of his 40-burger in Game 1, he was horrible. D'Angelo Russell couldn't make my middle school team. Dennis Schroeder wasn't. Darvin Ham, or whoever the coaches like, whether it's Darvin Ham or whether it's Coach LeBron, decided that with their season on the line, Tristan Thompson was the answer. Put him in the game at one point. They're absolutely terrible, and they should be embarrassed. The Lakers were the worst team in the conference finals, and the Nuggets were the best, and I'll concede the rest.
All right. Thanks for that, Jake. And just a quick reminder, if you hear any good one-liners, I think I heard a couple of those in Jake's opener as well as in our previous debate. Please feel free to drop them in the space, and I'll review those potentially to be for the podcast title. So thanks again, Jake, for your opening statement. Mr. Siriani, over to you for your 2-minute opening statement starting now.
Okay, so there's a lesson that I want everyone to have in the back of their head. 3 words describe the Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat. Quality over quantity. Yes, it was almost a sweep. It was almost a Game 7 comeback for the Boston Celtics that was historic for the ages. It didn't happen. Ultimately, the Miami Heat came into this game. They were up 3-0. They beat the brakes off of Boston in Game 3 by 26 points, but Games 4, 5, and 6, they let slip away. And it seemed like hope was going to come in, and then the Boston Celtics were going to come alive. And then Game 7 comes, and then they get washed out. 84 points in Game 7 at home. First off, let me just say this: quality over quantity. It's not about how many games you beat them and how many times it takes you to beat an opponent. It's about how you beat them. The Miami Heat outscored the Boston Celtics by 27 points, while in contrast, the Denver Nuggets outscored the Los Angeles Lakers by 24 points. Yes, there was more games. Yes, it was because the Lakers were swept and the Miami Heat had to take a couple losses. But at the end of the day, the Miami Heat were awesome because you want to know why? Jimmy Butler, someone stepped up. We saw Gabe Vincent step up. We saw Caleb Martin have big games of 26 and 25 points. We saw Max Strus come up big. Undrafted people. Duncan Robinson had a couple of big games in the series. And Bam Adebayo had 2 20-point games in the first 2 games of the series, and he was a good contributor nonetheless. When Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler are on, they're on, but for the first time, they got picked up by someone. The Denver Nuggets, they rely so heavily on Nikola Jokic. They rely so heavily on Jamal Murray. But now, for the first time, we saw the Miami Heat team in complete form in its entirety and what they could do and how they could be competitive and effective. Eric Spoelstra did his best to get the best out of his players and utilize every living player that he had against the Boston Celtics, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were absolutely terrible when it mattered the most in Game 7, and absolutely terrible in Games 1, 2, and 3 that put them in the hole. Ultimately, the Boston Celtics came up short from a historic comeback, but they looked terrible, and they didn't have to be in this position because they played with their food way too much in this series, and they looked awful when it mattered the most. In big moments, that's when it really counts. I can see my time.
All right, you were right on time. So thanks for that, Matt. Jake, you can come off of mute, and Matt, yeah, you can stay off of mute. And now we're going to get into our 8-minute crossfire segment. Gentlemen, light them up.
All right, so the Boston Celtics, let me just say this about the Boston Celtics. They didn't have to be in this position to begin with. They lost 3 out of 4 times at home to the Miami Heat in a 7-game series, which is embarrassing to say the least. So that's why I put them as the worst. The reason you can't lose 3 out of 4 times on a home advantage that is so prestigious, so up and coming, so amazing, with 2 up and coming players in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown who have experience but are also effective. This Miami Heat team was an 8th seed in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, and they looked phenomenal in Game 1, 2, and 3. Yes, they took their fault gas pedal, but you want to know why the Miami Heat were the best team in this? Not just their physical aspects, but their mental aspects. After a Game 4 loss, they didn't check out. After a Game 5 loss, they didn't check out. After Game 6, brutal loss, they didn't check out. They hung in tough. Eric Spoelstra and kept this team afloat mentally, and that's why they ultimately won this series, and they kept their foot on the gas pedal even when things were starting to fall apart.
That's true, and the Heat's run has been incredible, and this is one of the greatest playoff runs I've ever seen a low seed have in NBA history. but I just don't think it compares to the Nuggets. The Nuggets played a really good team in the Lakers. Obviously, the Lakers were a 7 seed. Obviously, they struggled in the first half. The first 12 games, they won twice. They couldn't hit water if they were in the Atlantic Ocean. The first 12 games, and the Nuggets, but they turned it around, and they were if they had that roster from the beginning of the year, they had at the trade line, probably were top four in the Western Conference. And the Nuggets swept them, and the Heat, yes, they went up 3-0, and they went up 3-0 on a team that is arguably the league's best team. But the fact that they lost 3 in a row, and by the way, they played as bad as you could in that game 6. Jimmy was 2 of 15 toward the last 5 minutes. Bam Adebayo was horrible. Outside of Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin, everyone else was terrible. And they were able to get it done in game 7. But overall, I don't know how you could say that the Miami Heat had a better conference finals than Nuggets. When the Nuggets swept a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and the Heat needed 7 games to beat the Boston Celtics.
Well, see, let me
So,
explain this.
so let
The
me
Boston Celtics.
chime in here. Let me chime in here with about 5.5 minutes to go here, and just throw out this. Um, did the Nuggets just do their job as being the higher seed? Is that more impressive versus the Heat being the underdog and pulling out? It took 7 games when they could have done it in 4, but nonetheless, they pulled it out as an eighth seed. What do you all think carries more
I
weight?
think it carries more weight when you're the worst seed in your conference and you pull off against one of the up and coming teams in the NBA, and you were a 15-game margin between the two teams. You have to remember, the Miami Heat were exhausted heading into Game 7. They played 2 extra playing games, went through 5 for the Bucks, went through 6 with the Knicks, and then they obviously lose 3 games in a row to force a Game 7. But ultimately, it's impressive when you're an 8 seed. No one thought you had a chance. You were dead in the water, and you rise in the playoffs, especially when you're getting contributors from the other side. Eric Spoelstra, being the most experienced coach of the 4 remaining coaches, executed a game plan, had his team mentally prepared, knew that there was not a bigger dog in this fight that could beat us, and that was the mentality going in. Despite how many games they lost, 3 in a row, they kept their foot on the gas pedal. And then when the Boston Celtics did lose in Games 3 and Game 7, they got blown out. 19 points on the road at home, 26 points on the road in Miami, and then you lose 6 or 7 point games in Game 1 and 2. That's just not how you should play at home in a big time playoff stage like the Eastern Conference Finals, especially with an opponent you're familiar with.
That's true, and like I said, the Heat are on an incredible run. But if you really watch the games, the whole playoffs, the Celtics were not on their A game this whole postseason. They gained 7 games to beat Atlanta, which is the most mediocre team in maybe the history of the NBA. They drove me nuts just watching them. Against Philly, they got lucky again. Philly choked, absolutely choked. Celtics shouldn't even been in the conference finals, and then so like, were the Heat playing a great team? I don't know. And Denver was playing a team that
4 minutes remaining.
had LeBron James and Anthony Davis, was arguably a top 5 team since the trade deadline. So the Celtics kind of limped into that series. You're saying the Heat were tired coming in, well, the Celtics were also tired coming in. They were completely gassed by Game 7. They had nothing left in them. Look at Jaylen Brown. I think it had something to do with Jason Tatum getting hurt.
They couldn't have been completely gassed if they forced a Game 7. They couldn't have been completely gassed. They've won 3 in a row to force a Game 7. How can you be completely gassed when the momentum is on your side? I mean, that's just the opposite.
I don't know how at home in the Game 7, especially at how much momentum you had. You won 3 in a row. We all saw how they won Game 6 on that crazy buzzer beater, and just be as pitiful as you were. Something had to be wrong. You don't just wake up and just play like that, unless you're like the Phoenix Suns because you have Chris Paul.
Well, let me tell you this. I respect the city of Boston. They have a good town there, but you gotta remember, Game 7, it was a jam-packed stadium. Celtics legends, Boston celebrities, etc. And although there was no triple-double in this series, Nikola Jokic did put up 3 triple-doubles in 4 games in that Western Conference Final. Ultimately, it was a complete and utter team unit by your starting 5. By Bam, by Jimmy, by Gabe, by Caleb, by Max Strus, by Duncan Robinson coming off the bench. You ultimately had a good full helping of 5 or 6 guys on that roster that could really contribute and put up a game for everybody. Even when Jimmy Butler wasn't at his best, he had guys to pick him up. Bam Adebayo did just enough in the games that really mattered. And this is what ultimately makes basketball the best team sport. When you have other guys around you. Last debate I had with Cap, we talked about how it was Jimmy Butler and the Temptations. Well, the Temptations really stepped up and played this time around, and they weren't playing.
That's true. The Heat
2-minute warning.
He definitely had like a collective effort, but let's not pretend like Denver was just Joe Kitchen, Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. stepped up. He was a guy who was very inconsistent throughout the postseason. He stepped up. Contavious Caldwell Pope and Bruce Brown, two of the I forgot were in the league. They stepped up. Like Nikola Jokic, to be honest, wasn't at his best in Game 2 or in Game 3, and they still were able to come together and win. Jamal Murray was not good in Game 4 really at all. Like, he had obviously an incredible series. He's had an incredible postseason. He's a great story coming off the knee injury, but he wasn't good in Game 4, and they were still able to pull together with LeBron James putting up 40, 10, and 9 in that game. So it's not pretending that the Denver Nuggets were not a collective unit either.
Well, the Boston Celtics.
So with about a minute and a half left here, let me throw out this. Which team do you think had the better supporting cast to kind of help put them over the edge? It seemed like the bench players, the non-stars, really were important for both of your teams that you indicated as having the best performance. 1 minute to
Well,
go.
the Miami Heat, I mean, you're talking undrafted free agent players that came out of nowhere, shining big when it really mattered. You got to remember, Caleb Martin was one vote shy of winning the award for Eastern Conference Final MVP. That's how amazing he played. And Duncan Robinson was hitting clutch threes when it really mattered. Max Strus came in big. Gabe Vincent got hurt for a couple games. It didn't matter because he stepped up big on defense and offensive side. He was ultimately a good contributor. It's amazing. Like I said, quality over quantity. You get quality from undrafted free agent players playing at a star level compared to first or second round draft picks or people they acquired from the trade deadline to play at a high level. That's what really matters most. Undrafted free agents coming up big in big moments. That's what makes the NBA's Eastern Conference playoffs so great because you don't know who's going to step up and where they're from and what the story is.
These undrafted guys are a really
30
good
seconds.
story, but let's not pretend like Michael Porter Jr. has led up to being a lottery pick. He's either hurt or inconsistent. Contavious Caldwell Pope, I forgot he was in the league. That's how unknown he was. Bruce Brown, I definitely forgot he was in the league. The last thing I remember was for whatever reason Steve Nash putting him at 7 despite him being 6'7", and on my TV he looks like he's 5'7". So let's not pretend like Jokic and Murray had this incredible supporting cast on paper either, and these guys stepped up, so you gotta give credit to where it's due there.
And that is time. Thank you, gentlemen, for that crossfire segment. Matt, I want to come to you first for closing statement. 2 minutes starting now.
All right, as impressive as a sweep is, the Denver Nuggets somewhat got away with Game 1, Game 2, and Game 4. If LeBron James makes that shot, we go into overtime, and maybe we're hearing a different story, and maybe we're still in the Western Conference Finals. Who knows? But if we're talking about right now, yes, the Denver Nuggets, they deserve their spot in the NBA Finals. They played to the best of their ability. But at the end of the day, the Miami Heat were a lower seed, more games played, tired and fatigued. Ultimately, they had a lesser sized guys that were just smaller or weaker that were against the Boston Celtics that were just higher with star power. And they completely shot the world in 7 games. Yeah, it took them 7 games. It should have been a sweep. But ultimately, when the pressure was on and they needed big plays in Game 7, they beat the Boston Celtics by 19 in TD Garden. Think about that for a second. 19 points TD Garden and then 26 points at home Miami in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. That is just impressive. And again, Caleb Martin, 1 vote shy of winning the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. Finally, someone other than Jimmy Butler stepping up and making big plays. Bam Adebayo did good in the paint.
1 minute.
Ultimately, this Miami Heat team played really, really well. And yes, the Boston Celtics, while I had them as the worst team in the league, they played with their food too much and they lost their focus. They let their focus get away. They had all momentum on their side heading into Game 7, and they completely choked. They completely wet the bed, and they really, really should be disappointed in themselves, especially with the future of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown up in the air. They were the worst performance, and they deserve every bad thing that comes to them. I can see my time.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Jake, you can come off of mute. Your 2-minute closing statement starts now.
Okay, so this is obviously we're bringing up a lot of factors here. All the Heat were an 8 seed and Denver was a 1 seed. But remember, this debate is who was the best team in the conference finals and who was the worst. That's all that matters. And the best team was the Denver Nuggets. They swept a team with 2 top 15 players, one in LeBron James, who is arguably a top 5 player of all time, and Anthony Davis, who you could argue is a future Hall of Famer. He was an NBA 75 guy, and he's got plenty of other role players that contributed all year. Guys like Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and D'Angelo Russell, and other guys like that. And Denver absolutely blew them out of the water. Nikola Jokic was putting triple doubles left and right. Jamal Murray put up 32 points a game on a ridiculous shooting number. Michael Porter Jr. played really well. Contavious Caldwell Pope played really well. Bruce Brown played really well. And I have Lakers as the worst. LeBron James, showed from 3 outside of Game 4, didn't do a whole lot. AD didn't play a lot outside of Game 1. D'Angelo Russell
1 minute.
was absolutely terrible. I said earlier, I don't know if he could have made my middle school basketball team. Then Schroeder wasn't doing anything special. The coaching decisions, whether that was LeBron doing it or Darvin Ham doing it, why they put Tristan Thompson in the game on the line, not the game on the line, but the season on the line in game 4, I have no clue whatsoever. But the Nuggets' performance in the conference finals was more impressive than the Heat. The Denver Nuggets swept a team that was arguably top 5 in the league
30
since the
seconds.
trade deadline. Whereas the Heat, after winning the first 3, including like 26 in game 3 or 24, whatever it was, lost 3 straight, including game 6 of the game. They only lost by a point, and it was on a buzzer, but they put as pitiful as a team could possibly play. Denver Nuggets were much better than the Miami Heat, and Los Angeles Lakers were much worse than the Boston Celtics, and that's all I got. I'll concede my time.
All right. Well, thank you both for those closing statements. And now it is time to vote. Again, the polling link is pinned here in the space, and it is now open for the next 2 minutes. Get your votes in, folks.
Oh boy, that was a lot.
That was a lot of fun.
That was fun. That was fun. Thank you, Jake.
Same to you, Matt. That was a lot of fun.
I don't want to say anything because the voting is still open, so I'll pause. I don't want to tip this one way or the other. I have to remember that. Like, I don't think I'm like influencing anyone, but I try to be fair to the people that come on to the debate. So
Nice.
like how in the last debate, I really wanted to talk about I wanted to throw some shade about Atlanta not getting another team because the first 2 times we had an NHL franchise, we had terrible management. But I didn't want to slight anybody. All right. Let's see here. Let's take a look at the poll. We got a minute left here. 2 votes apiece.
Oh.
Come on, and remember, Jake, you and
yeah, I voted.
and Siriani, y'all can vote.
We can't vote.
Yeah, I voted.
So
one of those votes is actually mine. How many other votes we got in here?
Well, there's 6 people in here, so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We got 2 people that haven't
so
voted.
That's 6 plus the 2 of us makes what, 8?
Yeah, because Pat and I don't vote.
Yeah, so that's 8 total votes.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, RC. I'll keep this space open afterwards, after the for a little bit, probably to the top of the hour. I need somebody to cast one more vote, otherwise this is going to end in a tie. And we have 10 seconds. Nope, 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Well, this is going to end in the draw. Oh, somebody got in at the buzzer. Uh-oh. Let's see here. And the winner of our second debate is Jake.
Wow.
Jake takes
at the buzzer.
Wow.
Wow. All right.
Nice job, Jake. Good job.
Thank you, man. You as well. That was a lot of fun.
That was really, really good.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you both for coming on today to debate, as well as once again Alex and RC for our Arizona Coyotes debate. To our listening audience, our live listening audience, I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your Wednesday evening to listen to Light 'em Up, the home of fan first sports debate. And if you're listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, feel free to subscribe, leave us a rating, share it with a friend. Listen to it while you're driving. Just don't debate while you're driving. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in and supporting the show. We'll be back here in 2 weeks to do more debates here on Twitter Spaces.